So, hey everybody, how you doing? So happy you could join me. So happy you could join this conversation about LinkedIn. Look, there's a lot of smart people who talk about and think about and do great LinkedIn work. If you want to talk about how to write a better hook or how to write a better post, look at what Jasmine Alex talking about. He does amazing stuff. He's on a bunch of podcasts talking about his work. Very followable, a lot of lessons to learn there. If you want to learn about how LinkedIn works from a process standpoint, follow Liam Darmody or Andy Foote, of course. They do great work trying to figure out how the algorithm works. And that's all well and good. But most of them are really based around personal branding, and it's not quite the same as what we do. Though, obviously, given who's in this room, I know there's a lot of personal branding work being done. What we're going to talk about is how to use LinkedIn to focus on the employer brand. Now, what was really interesting is about halfway through promoting this kind of conversation, it clicked. Someone was in a forum saying, hey, how do I get access to the LinkedIn channel because marketing has locked me out? And I went, oh, well, yeah, I guess obviously a lot of us have access to the marketing LinkedIn channel, but a lot of us do not. And just because you don't have access to the channel doesn't mean you have to kind of ignore it or kind of abdicate responsibility to doing good employer branding work on LinkedIn. So that's one of the big ideas we're going to talk about today. So if you don't, let me click on a button here. If you don't know me, hi, that's me. Hi, there's my hand waving. Hi, that's me. I've been doing employer branding for more than a decade. Happy to talk to any of you about employer brand work. But let's get kind of into the nuts and bolts of this conversation. But first, we have to have some housekeeping. One, yes, you will get the recording of this conversation, the entirety with the slides, the whole kit and caboodle. Two, chat is active. Chat is live. Brian Fink can't stop chatting with people in the chat because that is what a Brian Fink does. Much like that's what a Tigger does best. That is what a Brian Fink does best. But there's still lots of room for other people to engage in the chat and ask questions. That said, we got an hour and we can only go so deep in an hour. So if you have a question, great. Happy to answer it. But let's try not to get stuck into too many tangents. We want to get through the meat and potatoes of this conversation. So we're going to break this conversation up into four big chunks, four big ideas, and they build on each other, right? There's a lot to be said about writing a great kind of hook or a headline for your LinkedIn post, but that hook does its work at the greatest volume, really, when you've got a good community, when you've got a good audience ready for it. No one piece answers the question of how do you do good LinkedIn. It's all the pieces interacting and working together. So the first section, the first big idea is strategy. And this section is brought to you by my most recent book, 18 Laws of Employer Branding. It is available on Amazon right now. And the audiobook has just dropped on Spotify in North America. I'm told that link hasn't quite propagated globally, maybe soon. And soon you'll be able to buy it on Amazon as an audiobook if that's your particular way of doing things. It is a short book. It is less than 100 pages, but it is packed with ideas to help you see your own opportunities better, to kind of make good choices and to kind of see the challenges in front of you in a way that allow you to just, expand, your options to do great, amazing work, even if you don't have a lot of money and a lot of budget and a lot of resources to kind of play with. So that said, let's get into the strategy. And we're going to do that by looking at a tiny little company called Coca-Cola. Perhaps you've heard of it. Coca-Cola spends $4.4 billion every single year. That's billion with a B, billion every single year. Now, when they spend all that money, what they do is they make a lot of commercials. They make Santa Claus commercials and polar bear commercials and commercials about a first date and commercials about ball games and going to a ball game and great commercials. Some of them are tear jerkers. Some of them are funny. Some of them are sweet. A lot of different commercials. Now, is it weird that they do a Santa Claus commercial and a first date commercial and a polar bear commercial? Those things don't really go together in any kind of obvious way. Well, if we dig even further, we see taglines like Recipe for Magic, Coke and a Smile. Worth Every Drop, I think, is not a North American one. I think it's in other regions. I haven't seen it in real life, but in my research, it popped up. So looking at these big ideas, remember, $4.4 billion. You don't spend that kind of money unless you're getting some return on it. You don't spend it every single year unless it's worth it. And these are smart branders. They're smart marketers. What are they trying to say? This feels like a scattershot approach. This feels like throwing stuff against a wall and hoping somebody likes your brand and drinks some soda, right? But it's not. $4.4 billion smart people. What they're doing is trying to connect all these different ideas to one idea, right? They're trying to say polar bears have something to do with Santa Claus, which has something to do with a first date, which has something to do with recipe for magic. What is that central idea? Well, that central idea turns all of these disparate stories and narratives and ideas into something meaningful, into something that grows, into something that sticks in people's minds, that changes their emotional state when they see these commercials. Everything Coke does is geared towards saying and sparking happiness. Yeah. The best part is maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 ads or commercials even say the word happiness. Mostly, they don't even say the word. They know that by repeating a lot of these messages, you start to associate their particular sugary, fizzy, carbonated water with happiness. And that's a good thing. That's what they want. That's how they get you to drink more Coke. That's what they do. Now, what do you learn from this? Well, if you don't see the bigger picture, each of these individual commercials or taglines or ads seem scattershot. They just seem like a bunch of stuff, right? Just throw the stuff against the wall. But since there's an intention, there's a strategy, a plan, a narrative they're trying to put together, suddenly all those things you're throwing against the wall form a picture, right? So the number one challenge with most employer branders building on LinkedIn is that they take a stuff approach. They're making a brick and then they make another brick and each post is a brick. And then they make another brick and then they make another brick and then they make another brick and they just keep making bricks. Without the intention, what are you trying to build? What are you trying to get people to associate your brand with? It's just a bunch of bricks. It's literally a pile of bricks, which is nice, but it's kind of like saying, here's a bunch of colors. And we've arrayed them based on how red, green, and blue they are. And I guess there's merit to this. I guess there's value to this. And as such, this is just a bunch of stuff. You just made a bunch of colors. But if you have a narrative, if you have an idea about the story those colors are trying to tell, suddenly you have one of the greatest masterworks of all time, right? One is a bunch of data points. They're a bunch of posts. The other takes those data points, those ideas, those posts, and arranges them and aligns them so that meaning is created. And that is our strategy. Our strategy is to tell our narrative based on all of these different points, all of these different stories, all of these different posts, all of these different ideas should create a narrative. And that narrative is powerful. Narratives stick. Right? Your favorite movie, your favorite book, you could probably recite the plot to all day long. But if I asked you, what's the last name of that character in the background, you wouldn't know. Why? Well, you read it like 3 times, so you should know, right? Well, no, because narratives stick and data points fall out of your head. That's just human nature. And when you build a narrative, they're engrossing. They attract people. In fact, people kind of project themselves into your narrative. Like I remember being 5 years old and walking out of Star Wars thinking I blew up the Death Star, right? I was in that movie, right? I wasn't just some dumb 5-year-old. That movie was designed to make me feel like I could walk out and take on the world. That was the emotional response because I projected myself into it. Why can't employer brands be the same way? Why can't people project themselves into your world to say, do I like what this world is like? Do I like being here? Is this something that serves me? Is it something that makes me feel good? That's what a narrative can do. And when you have that narrative, you're kind of like saying, this is the frame, this is the lens through which I want you to see everything we're doing, right? If you decide that Tesla is the smartest company in the world, everything they do feels smart, right? From cutting costs or cutting prices to building a new factory in God knows where, everything Tesla does is smart because you've created this frame that says Tesla is a smart company. If you do not agree with that statement, if you think Tesla is an interesting company run by a crazy person, also a valid opinion, you would see cutting costs and building massive factories and trying to avoid taxes as a different thing other than smart, right? The narrative helps you understand what's going on. Okay. What do I mean by a narrative? Because that's one of the challenges. Everybody goes, oh, like a narrative, like a Pixar movie. Like once there was a blank and everything was great until one day a blank happened, and then something they had to go and fix for and solve for the blank, and then suddenly everybody was happily ever after, like that. No, 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 no. We're not here to do hero building. We're not here to do storytelling per se in that level. What we are here to do is create a core idea like happiness and Coke and align everything to it. For example, why can't your narrative be about autonomy or support or being empowered or serving others or being transparent or stability or kindness or whatever? These are just a couple of examples. And it's not an exclusive list by any stretch. There's plenty of other narratives you could be embracing and aligning to. Now, some of you are thinking, gosh, some of those things sound like our EVP pillars. Huh. Curious, isn't it? Moving on. So when you pick your narrative, when you pick your directional focus, suddenly all those bricks you're making can be turned into something bigger. That's what the bricks are there for. The bricks have limited value by themselves. They're just big paperweights, I guess, right? They're things to stub your toe on. But once you stack them with a little bit of mortar in between, suddenly they can make doghouses and mailboxes and barbecue grills and cathedrals. They can do amazing things. Now, what's interesting is that when you have that narrative idea and you start to tell people about this narrative idea internally, suddenly each new brick can have new and pronounced significance. It matters. You're not just filling up the calendar. It's not, oh, it's Tuesday, so I guess I better post something to LinkedIn. You're not saying, oh, the comms team told me I had to post about the CFO going to this conference, so I guess I will. It's about saying, okay, how do I turn this idea into something that supports the larger narrative? You're not there to fill the calendar. No one cares if you tweet on a Thursday. No one cares if you post on a Tuesday. No one cares. And we will get into posting in just a moment, but don't post just because you think you have to. You don't. What you have to do is make an intentional choice to post and say what that post is about. Because when everybody gets that narrative, everyone can help. Right now, a lot of employer branders feel like, oh, they're the one person invading a country, like it's all on them. They're a solo show, and that's tough, and that's the reality of a lot of our work. We don't all have a lot of teams that support us. So what you need to do is build allies. You need to build people who are advocates for this idea and can help you build their own bricks because they understand where those bricks go. Once everybody sees kind of the blueprint or the sketch of what this narrative is, they go, oh, I get it. I can add my part to that. And suddenly you got lots of people making bricks for you. And we're going to take advantage of that very, very shortly. And the best part about all this, the best part about a smarter narrative-driven, focused messaging strategy is that it doesn't cost a thing. Oh, it's free. My favorite word, free, 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 free. It's free. This is just a change in your point of view. And once you have that change of point of view, you can do amazing things and you won't have to ask for money. You won't have to pull a full Oliver saying, please, sir, can I have some more budget? No, you won't have to do that. Yeah, Brian, four-letter word, free, E. Free is the best. Now, how do you make this wonderful free strategy come alive? That's a great question. The answer is tactics. And that leads us to our second major section here, tactics. This section is brought to you by the Change Agent newsletter. It is 100% free. There's that word again. Every week, it comes to your mailbox Monday mornings or Monday afternoons, depending on where you live, and it's full of smart thinking for you to help you build an employer brand that matters and to help you change your entire business. Because as an employer brander, you are a change agent. It's true. It's true. Did no one tell you that? I'm sorry. I've forgotten the onboarding to tell you that. You're a change agent. You are. So embrace it. Do it. So go sign up. It's free. Go to thechangeagent.news or get out your handy dandy little supercomputer and take a picture of that little dotty thing. You know what that is. You know what this is. You know what year it is. You know how to do all this stuff. So let's get into tactics. Now, oh, thanks, Julia. I want to admit something. I am a failed grad student. failed once and then finished it the second time. I have half a master's degree in political science. No, calm down. I know. It's very impressive. Whatever. I spent a lot of my time, and the reason why I didn't finish my political science degree was I started spending more and more of my time in the journalism department. It was way more interesting to me. And I took my first intro to journalism class, and they teach you what headline is and the inverted pyramid and all the other journalism class type stuff. And about halfway through, the professor says, okay, go and cover a news event like a city council meeting or a zoning board meeting or something like that, something of the government. And so off I went. And just like every other junior reporter who thought they knew what they were talking about, I wrote down everything that was said and everything that was decided. And okay, there was a zoning question about whether they should be allowed to build this building. And on one side, we had the developers who had invested in the foundation and the property and were preparing to build X and Y and Z. And then on the other side, you had the community who wasn't so thrilled with all the mess and all the problems and blah, blah, blah. And they both went off and they voted 3-4 in favor of the development, and it went forth. And I wrote that up, and I turned it into an article, and I handed it in, and it came back. My professor said, this is not a story. This is a recitation of facts. What do those facts mean? And what he was saying is that I had written a topic. I'd written on the topic. I described the topic pretty well, actually. What I hadn't done is turned it into a narrative. Very often in our world, we are given stuff to post. The heretofore mentioned CFO going to a conference. Maybe we got an award. Maybe our team went and volunteered and painted a school or something, right? And they said, here, we took a picture. Post it. But that's the topic. Your topic is set in stone. You can't change the topic. You can't say, oh, it's not a volunteering a school thing. It is a stock price thing. Can't change the topic. But you can change the narrative around that topic. The topic just says what it is. The narrative tells you what it means. And that's way more important as we describe in the strategy. Let's look at an example. And I'm going to apologize for beating up on some companies in advance. I don't know you. I don't know them. This isn't personal, but they're perfect examples. And here we are. Now, I'm a big fan of International Women's History Day and Women's History Month. And I love the companies celebrate it, and I love the companies care about it, and the people take it seriously. And a lot of companies do a horrible job at it. Here are 3 actual LinkedIn posts from 3 different organizations, one of which is TikTok, yes, talking about International Women's Day. Now, the first says that International Women's History Day exists. End of post. What am I supposed to do with that? How does that further the narrative? How does that say anything about the brand other than, to me, the brand is, we know what a calendar is and we bought one and it said International Women's History Day today. So we said, yes, today is International Women's History Day. Move along. That's sad. That's not doing anybody any good. The second one is TikTok, where it's an informative panel informative panels to empower networking events. So they celebrated International Women's History Day. So what? What'd you learn? What'd you do? What'd you change? How was that impactful? Who was there? Did someone speak at it? Give me more information, because right now you're just saying we had a panel. Good for you. And what else? And we're going to ignore the unfortunate placement of that 4-pointed star on that poor belted woman's dress. That was a horrible placement. That is truly unpleasant. No one needed to see that. Third, and this one is my favorite because it's so sad and so telling, we are celebrating International Women's History Day by inviting a man to speak. What? What are you doing here? Look, every LinkedIn eyeball that you get, whether it's on your corporate site or any other page or wherever it is, every eyeball set is a gift. It took resources, time, energy, money to get that random person you don't know to see this post. And all you post is this garbage? It was a gift and you threw it away. Worse, you made it very clear that you don't care about their gifts. Guess what? They ain't coming back. You give people garbage like this, they unsubscribe very, very, very quickly. So let's talk about what you should be doing. How do you turn this into a narrative? So first, once you know what the narrative is, you need to say, what are some stories we could be telling? This is an ideation stage. What is going on, right? What can we say about this narrative idea? And this is a good brainstorming topic with your hiring managers and your recruiters and maybe the comms team and the internal comms team and a lot of other teams who have a lot to add to this, right? They might say, oh yeah, we're doing this thing. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. I can write about that in terms of the narrative. Step one. Step two, what are things that are coming up? You've got events. You're going to Grace Hopper? Fantastic. You know what the post should not be? We're going to Grace Hopper because nobody cares. Tell me why it matters. And we're going to show some examples of how to rewrite some posts to make them more useful, how to change the topic. Without changing the topic, how do you change the narrative? But look for places where those stories are going to naturally show up because you're going to look at those stories through the lens of the narrative, right? That's what it's about. You got to look at it through the lens of the narrative. And the narrative helps you find stories, but it also forces you to see the stories as they are and figure out how to twist them and tweak them and adjust them to fit into your larger cathedral, right? Here's my favorite. You've got posts historically, and some of them were bad. Some of them were great. Why not reuse some of those great ones, but twisting the narrative a bit, restorying to the right point of view, to the right narrative. Go back and rewrite your old posts and see if they perform better, even the bad ones. Take a look. In fact, this is a great way that I show TA leaders what I mean by restoring or using a narrative, right? Here, let's take a look at some examples of what you could do. Now, I pulled these today. So these are real life stories. So the first one we have, the First Merchants Bank in Michigan, which I know nothing about. Again, not here to make anybody feel bad. I'm simply using it as a great example of posting the topic, but not the narrative. And they're talking about how they help put together 1,300 free lunches. Good for them. And that's great. All well and good. I love that. That's super positive. Yay, yay, yay. You could have written that so much more powerfully. For example, First Merchants Bank is part of the Oak Park community, and that means serving everyone in the community, from business owners and homeowners, because they're a bank and that's what they do, but also to serve those who need a little help and one day become a business and homeowner themselves. Night and day, night and day. One is just, we went and volunteered, yay us. The other is, why? Why did we spend time doing this? What does it matter to the business, to the people? Why does this matter? What is the narrative? Night and day. Again, didn't cost you a dime. Did not cost you a dime to write this better. Another example. Here is another example of a risk management organization going in, working at Forgotten Harvest Farms, which is apparently some sort of charity. I don't know anything about any of these organizations. And all they said was, here's the date. Here's the address, as if that wasn't in the photo with the QR code by itself already. Wasted space. Instead, they could have said something like, risk management is about more than spreadsheets and actuarial tables. It's about serving people and helping them make smart decisions. And that's why every year we partner with organizations like Forgotten Harvest to serve those who are in the greatest need. Suddenly, that was literally, I wrote that in 4 seconds. Is it killer? No. Could it be better copywritten? Yes. But is it better than what they posted? Not even a question. It doesn't take much to start to see that if you arrange your bricks in the right fashion, you can build amazing things. And that's the goal. That is the goal. I got another one. We got time? We got time. This one I came across today in searching for these posts. This one was just funny. We've updated our page. Please visit our page to see our latest updates. I thought you just updated our page to see the what? I'm making fun of them. Yes. And so many employer brand recruiting posts are just saying the thing that they're saying. It doesn't mean anything. It's not adding any value, right? I see this stuff a lot and I can't keep track of all of them. They're pretty bad. But at the same time, there are a couple of other things you can do very quickly to add value to your LinkedIn channel. First off, yes, put that face on it. I know that there's been a big change over the last year that LinkedIn is saying, 0 followers, right, Miguel? Come on, no shock. There's been a lot of posting about LinkedIn doesn't want it to be Facebook, so don't post selfies. And yet, I can tell you from my own data, and I can tell you from a lot of other people's data, posts with selfies on them work better. They perform better. They get more attention. They get more eyeballs. They get more engagement. They feel more human. Just use them. Find a way to stick some human faces on your posts. 2, go back, You can look at the last year's worth of posts, find the best stuff, recycle them. If you aren't recycling your best posts every 3 to 4 months, you are missing out. You are like leaving virtual money on the virtual table. Don't miss out. Make a tiny tweak to the headline, make a tiny tweak to the body copy, or don't. Who cares? Trust me, no one remembers it when you posted it 4 months ago. No one. So use it again and again and again and again. Throw a new pic on an old post. You had a post, you're like, oh, that was useful and it's got some evergreen value to it. Swap out the photo. What? Why aren't we doing that? Finally, and this is my personal pet peeve, hallway posts. And that is, think about your house, right? You've got a room where you keep all your cooking supplies in it. You've got a room where you sleep, and you've got a room with your TV and your couch. What connects those rooms? Hallways. What's in a hallway? Nothing. Oh, Lucas has a question. Don't know in the question. Yes, in LinkedIn, is it possible to swap pics? Don't swap pics like that. Copy the old post, paste it into a new post, add a new photo, post it again in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. Repeat that stuff. That's how you apply a new photo to an old post. Great question. Thank you, Lucas. But a hallway post is the thing in between things. For example, you write this really interesting profile and you put it in a blog, and you put the blog on your corporate site because someone told you had to. Okay, I'm not here to argue with that. However, you make a LinkedIn post that says, hey, check out our latest blog about Susan, who likes to ride motorcycles. I think I won't. I think I'll skip that post. I think that is not compelling enough in any way, shape, or form for me to actually engage the clicking action on my finger to read that post. And if you look at your data, you'll see that me and, I don't know, let's call it 93 to 98% of people followed suit. We saw the post and we went, ignore. And that's unfortunate because you spent all that time on that profile. You spent so much time on that blog post, right? So if you know that most people will not be clicking on that link, and let's be honest with ourselves, not many people will be clicking on that link. Put something of value in the LinkedIn post about that blog so that even if someone does not click the link, they got something of value. Don't treat the hallway as the thing to get you to this other place because it's not enticing enough. You got to put something useful on that post so that if they don't click, they still see the narrative. That narrative is still supported. What might entice them? Look, Jennifer, that's a great question. Depends on the blog post. Here's the deal. We feel like we're in such a funny spot. We have been taught so many weird lessons and we glue them together in funny ways. I see a lot of people who say, don't reveal the big twist until the very end. And I know a lot of people say you put the twist at the top and then you show how you get there. And there's no right answer for that. So I might say, what is something you want me to learn? Me as the reader of that blog post who will not have the time to read that blog post. What is something you would have liked me to have taken away from that blog post? That's what you put in the LinkedIn post. And if I like that, I'll go, oh, that's really interesting. What else can you tell me? Click, moving along. I will read it. And if I don't click it, I still got value out of it. So don't think of it in terms, I'm not talking about like clickbaity headline, which I know we do sometimes. Guilty. I do that too. But I'm thinking in terms of what's the value to the narrative you could be adding. Okay. Don't do hallway posts. So there's one more tactic I haven't mentioned, and it's the big one. And that brings us to section 3, and that is advocacy. Yes, advocacy. Advocacy, this section is brought to you by employerbrand.ing. It is where I put all my resources, most of whom are free, not all of them, but most of them. So videos and newsletters and podcasts and articles and books and classes and lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my employer branding. Yes, go to employerbrand.ing or scan the code. There you go. Lots of resources for you there. So let's talk about advocacy, because the honest truth is your LinkedIn channel that your corporation owns, it sucks. And I'm not saying you suck and I'm not saying they suck. I'm simply saying the way the LinkedIn algorithm works doesn't want organic sharing to happen on a corporate page. You know why? You, me, individuals on LinkedIn, we don't have any money. You know who does? Our businesses. And so LinkedIn says, we're going to not let those posts propagate organically unless you pony up the cash. Why? Because you're a business and you've got the cash. We're going to let individual posts get scattered and shared and propagated all over the place. right? We're going to play with it and push that out to a larger audience, a larger percentage of the audience. So even if you've got work for a company, you've got like 1 million followers, guess what? You are not reaching 1 million followers. You are not. Why? Because you didn't pay for it. So even if you're in a channel where you have a huge LinkedIn corporate audience, trust me, don't be distracted by the shiny. Don't be distracted by the big number on that profile because you can't reach them. You just can't. LinkedIn won't let you unless you spend the money. So stop thinking that LinkedIn as a corporate channel is your primary employer brand channel. It is not. What you have to do instead is leverage the real power, because the real power comes from people, not the corporation, right? The individuals, even if they only have 10,000 followers, even if they only have 5,000 followers, they are emotionally connected. They have relationships with those people. So if they share a post, it's going to get out to a wider audience. It's going to get seen by people who want to see it, not by people who say, oh yeah, I followed that company once like 6 years ago when I applied for a job because it was an automatic checkbox in the application process. Thanks, LinkedIn. Gee, how did you do that? That was so clever. And now I don't know why I like that company or why I'm following it. And why am I getting this garbage? This is stupid. I don't care about this. That's how people see your corporate posts. Unless you're OpenAI or Google or I don't know, some other cool, sexy company everybody thinks is sexy right now, most people see that post and go, why am I seeing this? But when their friend or their coworker or their former coworker says, I'm posting this, they'll be much, much, much more inclined to read it, to click it, to engage with it, to comment, to like it, to do the stuff we want them to do. Also, who is following your corporate channel? Pretty much everybody, pretty much anybody, pretty much all the people, but not really. So when you're posting a story about a data scientist, is it going to be seen by data scientists? Well, if 1% of your corporate followers are data scientists, maybe, but probably not, right? Your post is going to go to a teeny fraction of the people who actually follow that channel, and most of them will not be data scientists. LinkedIn doesn't say, oh, you're posting about data scientists, I'm going to push this to people who are data scientists. No. That's what the money is for, to quote Don Draper. That's why you spend. If I post as a data scientist, you know who I know a lot of? That's right, other data scientists. And the same is true for electricians and nurses and project managers and sales managers or what have you. Focus on people. They have better relationships, which leads to better reach, better networks, better engagement. And it's a two-way street. They will be thrilled to be part of a larger solution to help you build this cathedral. They can say, I added some value. I helped out. How do we do this? Well, we start by organizing per post, right? What is the problem this post is trying to solve? What are we trying to do? Why are we posting, right? What are we doing here with your employer brand? Not just spreading out so more people like it. That's not useful. You're solving a problem. So what's the problem? Maybe you start with a hiring manager who needs you to get more people to apply for his job or her job because no one is applying and anybody who applies sucks. So make a video or you make a post or you write something up. You have them pick a time in which you know that they will be around and other people like them will be around. You have them post it. You ask their entire team to comment and share on it within the first hour and ask your recruiters to do the same. So for each individual post, you rally the teams to give it the biggest push you can. Yes, this is technically a version, sort of a pod system. And there are plenty of people who say the pod system is bad, and I'm not a big fan of it either. However, pods work. This system works. Even after the algorithm changes, it still works. It still feels like, so long as it's not the same people over and over again, it still feels organic. Look, this is a natural extension of how people like your posts. Like I have 20, 30, 50 people who like my stuff all the time, and it's the same people all the time. LinkedIn doesn't see it as a pod. They say, oh, he has fans. He has people who like what he has to say, and those fans are excited to see his posts. Why can't we use that to our advantage? Why can't we say, if that hire manager posts about a data science job, all these other data scientists are liking it and commenting and engaging it and sharing it? Well, gosh, it must be a really interesting data science post. It works. I promise you, it works. 2, build a system for advocacy. That means make a Slack channel or a Teams channel, if you're in Teams team, I don't know, whatever, and include every recruiter and include as many of hiring managers on it as possible. And this is where building good relationships with hiring managers is incredibly powerful. You can reach out to them, engage them, ask them for help, and they will see, since you've helped them get a lot of people to their jobs, they will help the next person. This is how you build a community to really push this LinkedIn thing, so that they're your street team. They're there to help push everything out. So build systems so that you're not, so when we go back to this previous post about the how you do it per post, it's not a one and done. It's you're going to do this on the regular. So build systems that make it easy to do this on the regular, right? Build a system. Finally, you got to feed the system. And that means once or twice a week, write a post. Yes, employer branders, you should know how to write a good LinkedIn post, right? That's part of the job. And ask someone to share it. And when they share it, ask everybody in the pod to like it or engage with it, or write a post and say, can you rewrite this and put this on your social channel? Feed the machine. Keep giving it content. So it's not just when you need something, it's just you're building their networks, because the value to them is, as you are handing them material, you can post that stuff out to the world. They are generating bigger networks about these ideas. And that's good for them. They like knowing more people are following them. I'll tell you a real story. This was 3 years ago. We had a data scientist job. I made a data scientist video. Dave was a super, super like laid back, super nice, like almost introverted, shy guy. Made a video, recorded it remotely, chopped it up, stuck it on, handed it to him. He posted on LinkedIn. And we had everybody, every recruiter, every data scientist he knew, everybody on his teams, anybody who owed him a favor, please like, please engage, please follow this post. The next day he emails me, or actually Slacks me, and he sends me the screen capture of his homepage, and it shows 99 plus in his network section. This is a guy who gets 1 or 2 network requests a week. He got 99 plus in a day. He said, I had more people who wanted to talk about this job than I've ever seen in my life. And they were quality people. They understood what I was talking about. They liked what I had to say. They engaged. His viewer, chart was like a hockey stick. It really went pow. It was like, oh my God. It was like a 10,000-fold increase in traffic to his page. This is a process that works. 1, it helped Dave, but now I got Dave in my pocket. I got Dave who will like other people's posts, and you just generate the machine. You feed the machine and you generate it. I got questions here. Caddy asks, our TA is a daughter. Our TA team is in our daughter company, and they have other clients as well. I don't care who the company is. You hand them to the person who are going to do the most good. So if it's the hiring manager, it's the hiring manager. It's the leader of that team, it's the leader of the team. Give it to an individual to post, and then rally a team to push against it, to really push it out to a wider audience. It's not about the corporate channel, because we know the corporate channel doesn't have nearly as much value as we think it does. Sarah asks, what about asking employees to like, comment, and share corporate stuff for your company profile? Yeah, do that too. All this stuff, I'm just assuming you don't have access to the corporate channel, but all this stuff works really, really well for the corporate channel. And remember, that big number on your corporate channel, not nearly as valuable as you think it is. It's even when you put this kind of system in place against a corporate post, LinkedIn still throttles it back and keeps it from seeing the widest possible audience, because it knows that you want to get that out, and it thinks you'll pay for it. So it will do everything it can to make you pay. So do both. Don't limit yourself. Take the strategy and apply it to both sides. In fact, if you were super smart, and I suspect that you might be, you would actually test this again on both sides and see how it works. Make your own findings, because your audience is yours, not mine. I don't know it as well as you do. So test it, find out. Kate asked, do you think it looks too curated if you give your whole TA team the same pre-written copy? That is a challenge, right? There are plenty of tools out there that will kind of just pre-spam and make it easy for people to just share this, share this, share this. What I would say is, yes, it can look spammy. However, it's helpful to build the muscle to share those posts. Look, as much as I love recruiters, they generally tend to be, Brian, I'm not talking to you. They generally tend to be bad at writing LinkedIn posts. They generally tend to post, we're hiring, join our company, great opportunity, very transactional stuff. It is the minority who really post something interesting. they got to get practice. And so if you start by feeding them interesting posts and teach them what good, interesting posts look like, they will start to learn on their own. Their muscles will get built. They will do it on their own, or they will rewrite your stuff, or they will say, I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. And that's the win too. So great questions, all of you. Fantastic. Thanks so much for throwing them in there. The other part of this is, and this is the magic secret, sneaky stuff, as you become good at this, as you start to say, oh, I know LinkedIn. All right. I mean, I know your social media channel. I know you kicked me out of the LinkedIn channel. I know you locked the door behind me, and I'm sure you talk smack about me behind my back. That's fine. I will be the bigger person. I will show you that LinkedIn is not Facebook for boring things. LinkedIn is its own beast, because it is. It's got different rules. It's got different processes, the way it handles tagging, the way it handles hashtags, the algorithm models, completely different. You can't just lift from Facebook and shift it onto LinkedIn and hope it's going to work the same. It won't. So you need to develop LinkedIn specific expertise. And once you do that, once you start to say, hey, I got more posts, more LinkedIn, more eyeballs and more views and more clicks to my posts than you did, and you have like 100 times more followers to your channels, maybe I'm doing something right. Maybe you should ask me for help. And suddenly, when they see you as having exclusive value to a channel they don't care about, because they just don't, because why would they? LinkedIn is kind of boring. It's not TikTok. It's not, fun stuff. It's not Instagram. But if you can come in and say, I can show you how to make your posts more valuable, suddenly the door gets opened. Suddenly they want you as part of the process. Georgiana asks, because Georgiana is feeding me a softball because she knows what I'm about to say. What would you recommend instead of saying we're hiring? I would say anything else, because we're hiring posts don't matter. Who cares that you're hiring? Only someone who is desperately looking for a job. And I'm going to use the word desperately very specifically there. And if they're desperately looking for a job, are you hiding your jobs? Are they not on every job board in the known universe? Of course they are, because we're all posting our jobs on all the job boards all the time. No one is hiding jobs. There's that story about how, did you know that 50% of all jobs are on the gray market or the black market? That's bullshit. That's data from 1987. That's pre-internet thinking. It's not true. 99% of jobs are posted in places so that people can find them. That's what they're there for. Why would a company hide a job that they don't want to fill? That makes no sense. So posting we're hiring only talks to the person who's desperate, who apparently couldn't figure out how to find your job on a job board. Say something interesting. Say something about the narrative. Remember, right now in the US anyway, and Georgia, I know you're not in the US, but the data makes sense. Right now in the US, we have a record number of people who say they are looking for a job. That record number is 28%, which sounds like a big number, and it's not a small number. And 72% of people are not. That means 72% of people are actively not looking for a job, which means the we're hiring post, right over their head, does not concern them. Like offering me, it's like a shampoo commercial for me. What do I care? I'm just literally ignoring that stuff. It's not useful. However, if you talk about something in your narrative, it's interesting. How you offer autonomy, how you talk about transparency, how you talk about supporting communities. It's interesting. It's something worth reading, even if I'm not looking for a job. And suddenly, once you engage people outside the job market, which by the way is most of them, you have a better chance at engaging someone worth hiring. Okay? Simple as that. But a great question. Thanks, Trisha. So once you've got your expertise and you've built that channel and you've shown how you're doing it, what do you do next? Before we answer that question, in the chat, please tell me what you've learned so far. Please tell me if any of this is at all useful. If I have been boring you to tears, please feel free. I can take it. I'm a big boy. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to cry myself to sleep on my big pillow. I know my head size is massive and I know it's a big pillow, but I'm not going to cry myself to sleep. So what have you learned so far? What's been most useful? What has been surprising? Throw it in the comments. I would really appreciate that. And I will vamp for another 15 seconds while you do the finger typey thing and the clack, clack, clack thing. Fantastic. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Long Day. Don't be boring. Yeah, that's true for everybody. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Joel. Joel, by the way, that statistic came from Joel Cheeseman, who I believe got it on NBC. It's in my newsletter. If you want to go look at my archives, I think it was in this week's. Whoa, got a lot of stuff. Great, 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 great. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. And if you're still typing, I'm going to let you finish. Um, this is useful stuff. This is really useful. I appreciate that. I really do. Okay. Power comes to the people. Damn straight. Anyway, let's get into the fourth section, and that is the value. Value is brought to you by Employer Brand Labs. Me, that's my company. You know how they say everything has to be fast, good, and cheap, but pick two? Not the way I do employer brands. You can have all three. So if you'd like to see more about that, find me on LinkedIn, ping me, talk to me, or use this QR code to go to employerbrand.labs, employerbrandlabs.com. Thank you. Check it out. Learn more. I'm just going to say it. An employer brand for 10 grand. There you go. No one else is doing stuff like that. And you can do it in 3 to 4 weeks. So that said, let's get into it. The value everybody wants to measure is something they can see in a dashboard. And that's nice. But the real value of what you're doing here is that you are building networks for yourself, for your company, and for the individuals. Most hiring managers, and honestly, weirdly, surprisingly, most recruiters fear LinkedIn. They don't know what to do. They're so terrified of doing something wrong, like they're going to accidentally type in the nuclear missile codes or something, and it's going to launch the things and it's all over. Like, I don't know what the real fear is, but I'm a loudmouth, so I don't have that kind of fear. I get that I'm not that person. That said, they're terrified they're going to do something wrong. So teach them. And when you teach them how to use this incredibly powerful channel, which literally has, 2 billion people on it right now? Or 1 billion, I can't remember what the number is. It's a massive amount of number, and it's how they're going to engage with other professionals in their industry, other people in the location, other people in the company, to hear more from leadership, to learn more about all of that stuff. They're going to love it, but they need to know how to use it. And you are the ones teaching them how to get value out of it. That means you can teach them how you can become the source of their next great hire, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. This is value to you. That means you've built an advocate, an ally, someone who will stand up and say, no, we can't defund employer brand. This person helped me find these jobs, and they did things that I didn't think was possible, things that the recruiters didn't know how to help me with, because recruiters tend to be, in bigger companies anyway, focused on following a process. Employer brand tends to break those processes, right? We're the SWAT team, where the recruiters are, the regular army and police that doing most of the work. We come in for special needs. And when we show our value, they appreciate that value. They will become your advocates. So the value isn't just in what you build in a dashboard. The value is the network you are building for your work and your function inside the company, that they are really going to get what it is employer brand does. Right? Employer brand is so high-minded very often. It's very abstract. People need to see what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. And that means helping them build their LinkedIn, helping them, how to put a banner up, how to put a better picture up, how to write a headline. My last in-house job, I spent a good deal of time helping every recruiter and a lot of hiring managers just get their LinkedIn channel up to snuff and give them basic training on what they should talk about. Incredibly valuable. Getting to know these people was amazingly valuable down the road. Next, it's going to help you with storytelling. And this is where starting with advocacy and building your network is powerful, because when the hiring managers know what you do, when you've helped them generate great applications and getting to that point where they're getting amazing hires, you and they are going to hear stories. The candidate might say, I saw your post and I had to apply, right? You might ask, well, would you have ever applied otherwise? No. The story got them interested. I was intrigued that the hiring manager was posting. I've heard these things and variations of these things so many times from candidates through the hiring managers. The hiring managers will tell you what works. This is, the storytelling allows you to put a face and a connection to what is an abstract idea, getting LinkedIn better. Suddenly, real people are seeing it, engaging it. They're taking an action. They're changing their mind about your company, and that's powerful. So the anecdotal evidence of what you're doing is just as valuable as the data evidence that you're going to put together, because we are going to get to the metrics. Now, how do you measure the value of what you're doing? Start off with the number of employees participating in this. Yeah, it's an advocacy metric, but again, don't calculate eyeballs, because the eyeballs is based purely on size of network, kind of network, how engaged are they? Just because you have 10,000 followers doesn't mean you're going to get 10,000 eyeballs. In fact, if it's a company, you're going to get like 12, I think. I'm exaggerating slightly, but only by a little. You're not going to get the same following. You're not going to get the same kind of engagement. Talk about share the success stories, share that anecdotal evidence. Yes, share the numbers of shares and views, the engagement to the posts. But the more you can show how you're not just saying we're hiring, that you're talking about things that other companies aren't talking about. The more you can show how the narrative you're forming isn't just there to make people apply, but is actually to provide a human face for what the company is doing, the more people are going to see the work you're doing here on LinkedIn as incredibly powerful. Brian asks, do I recommend a third-party tool to observe actions on metrics? Sure, if you got one. Should you spend a lot of money on it? Probably not. There's like 100 other things I can think of I would rather spend my money on than that, because we are not the LinkedIn owners, and we should not be measured on our ability to drive LinkedIn. This LinkedIn is a tool by which we drive value for employer brand. So having, if you're a woodworker, having expertise in the hammer or the screwdriver is not the whole job, but it helps you do a better job, doesn't it? Right? So knowing those expertise. So you don't have metrics on the screwdriver or hammer. You build metrics on what those screwdrivers and hammers are trying to do. I always fall back to the metric conversation of what did you want the employer brand to solve? Like everybody wants to measure what is the employer brand. How do you measure the employer brand? Wrong question. What you measure is the impact of the employer brand. Did the employer brand attract higher quality candidates? Measure that. Did the employer brand get you to fewer applications but better candidates? Measure that. Did the employer brand create advocacy? Measure that. What was the problem it was trying to solve? Glassdoor has convinced us that our employer brand is a number in the corner of a web page. It is not. Our employer brand lives in other people's heads. We can't impact them. We can't change them. All we can do is influence them. So don't try to measure them like pizza. Measure them by what the impact you've created with it is. Checking on questions. Jade makes a great point about Gen AI. Whoa, we're moving fast. I missed a question about Gen AI. What do you think? Look, AI. Oh, there it is. Thoughts on equipping HMs and recruiters with guidelines using okay. The AI question. And I love this question. And if you check my LinkedIn, my YouTube channel, I have a whole class on how to better use AI in employer branding. And one of the things I talk about is that you shouldn't use it to generate job posts and posts. AI tends to sound like AI. Even if you do the tricks like make it sound like Brene Brown, make it sound like Seth Godin, it's nice. But AI does not understand what you understand. It does not know what your company is all about. At best, you can ask it to scrape your company page and your LinkedIn posts and learn something about it. But what it's doing, it's regurgitating variations on a theme, which is fine, but you can do so much better. I would rather you figure out how to use LinkedIn or how to use AI to say, what are some stories we could tell? And then write those stories with your own 2, 5, 12 fingers, however many fingers you got. You write them on your own. AI is not about content generation. It is about content identification, story identification. Hey, you could tell stories about these ideas. That's really useful. Letting it write your posts for you is always a dangerous game. It's kind of like stock art. Is that your company or is it a picture of some other company? And then how does a picture of some other company help you? I don't know. Let's see, jumping back. Ask a question about newspapers versus posts, the best way to recycle old content. Yeah. Okay. So, Ellie, rewrite that question. I know you went fast because I was moving fast. I want to answer this question. I'm going to give you a minute to rewrite that question so it's clear, so I get it. Other people think it's great. I'm unclear because I'm a little goofy and I'm on stage. Opinion of employee advocacy software. It's great. It's super helpful if it's free. If it's already there, if someone's already paid for it, use it. I'm a big advocate of using what's available, right? If you have access to it, use it. Choosing which resources to buy and procure, whole different conversation. I think strategically, I think platform level, I don't think about making a thing. I think about how do I make a thing that makes lots of things, right? That's just me. But if there's a tool that you've already bought or HR already bought, use it. Absolutely. Even, employer brand never gets funded very well. Coke gets 4.4 billion every year. We do not. So you got to be opportunistic about what you have access to and take advantage of it however you can. Okay. Thank you, Ellie. I appreciate you rewriting this. This is a post I made referencing an article I wrote, and I posted part of it. I could not get AI to shorten it to fit a post, so I need to start a newsletter to repost. Look, as a guy who writes a newsletter and has written one for over 5 years, oh my God, it's been too long. LinkedIn loves to tell you that you should use LinkedIn articles and newsletters to write stuff. LinkedIn articles, LinkedIn actually hates. They do so much work to ignore. I have posted stuff as articles only to have it sit there like, just sad, like it's not working. To get it out to your newsletter and get people to read it takes a lot of time and effort. I know Brian Fink's got a great LinkedIn newsletter. He uses LinkedIn platform for that. I don't know what his traffic is. There are lots of channels. The question is, how do you figure out how to divvy that stuff up? And there's no right answer. Again, start by saying, what do you have access to, and take advantage of that. Making sure I'm catching stuff. Which will newsletters get me more attention than on a post? Like I said, newsletters are weird. Brian Fink can throw in a point about that if he's still around, because he knows he's got a good newsletter. But the truth is, think less in terms of what gets me the most bang for the buck, not what's going to get 1,000 people to see this. Think about, what is something you can write that you can use over and over again and make 12 different tweets, make 3 different LinkedIn posts, make a newsletter, a different newsletter, whatever. There's so many different places to leverage that. It is very hard to say that there's a correct system. This is where people like Andy Foote and Liam Darmody are the kings. They understand how all those content choices make sense. I'm not a big fan of saying, oh, did you know polls get 4.3% more traffic than a picture post? I'm not about that. I'm not worrying about that. I would rather say, instead of trying to copy everyone else and optimizing, say something so interesting and specifically weird and unusual and attractive and engaging that people share it, right? We talk about the optimal length for a video. Well, no one thinks The Godfather is the greatest movie in the world because it's the optimal length for a video. No, it was just really, really good. It just happened to be long. Star Wars is less long. It's just really, really good. It's not about the structures. It's about what you're putting in it. So I would say, test it. Maybe the newsletters are going to kill it for you. Maybe maybe you have found the magic sauce that makes your article work. Spoiler, you probably haven't. But test it, try it, keep trying it, because there's no one way. The goal is to build a narrative, because no matter how you leverage it, no matter what channel you put it on, even if you go out to Twitter, even if you go out to Instagram, the narrative strategy is what creates the real value. Okay, we are running out of time. If you have questions, find me on LinkedIn. I know you know where I am. It's linked here. I'm LinkedIn. I'm going to give you a link just because you know and how you doing. Some of you already found me. Clicking my name because I can't type it very well, copying and pasting. Look, throw me questions. I'm happy to answer it. I want to kind of close the video off for anybody else. But if you've got more questions, find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, engage with me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was useful. Figure later today, I'll have the recording available to anybody who registered, and I hope you enjoy it. So with that, thanks so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.